The other thing I want to ask you about, because I remember you mentioned this in one of our previous clinics and also in the tone tips, is your vibrato as well is a massive part of your playing.
Absolutely.
And I think that the two of them together, it's just totally this kind of, as you say, the dynamics you can pull out of that, the variety of sounds, how expressive you can be. Like, tell us a little bit about the kind of vibrato techniques you're using.
So for like vibrato and things like that, I'm old school. I think about vibrato in 3 ways. I would always say slow, medium, fast. Like, that was really where I tried. And when I think about vibrato, I think of a string, and it always has to be even. What I noticed when I was starting out is I didn't really have a guide. So it was like, I just wanted it to almost sound like a voice. And I knew it was so important because all of my favorite players, like many people that are watching this, they all had their own their fingerprint on their vibrato, their touch. We hear one note from David Gilmour, we hear one note from Clapton, whatever. You're like, oh yeah, I know exactly who that is. So I wanted to have that. So when I thought about vibrato, I would think to myself, okay, let's do, I would anchor my thumb on the back and I'd say, I'm gonna use, let's say my G string, 9th fret, and I'm gonna work on my vibrato. I'm gonna do slow, medium, fast. So I'll go. And I'd sit on it and I would think about it. And I would think about the way that the note was reacting to how I shook it. So I'll hit one note and I'll vibrato it so many different ways. So check it out. And then you start to actually mess with the guitar tone, volume, And then you can variate. I want to use my thumb on the top for more of a clinch, or I want to go old school Clapton. I'll go. And I started to develop all these weird vibrato techniques, and I was just really into it. I would hear guys like, I would hear B.B. King play, and he would do a vibrato, and I'd hear like a, you know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah.
And then I would hear guys like Stevie Ray Vaughan play, And I really, really got into the soul and the feeling of the vibratos. Clapton, I could sit here all day because I studied these guys so much.
Yeah.
And it really came down to, I think vibrato is the #1 attitude thing on guitar. When I hear a guitar player play, if I hear a vibrato that's slamming and I'm like, oh man, it's almost like the one thing I can tell, like if a guitar player plugs in and I hear them going, they're like, whatever, you're like, okay, cool, yeah, guitar player. But when I hear someone pick up a guitar and go like, it's like, okay, this guy's playing.
That's when it starts really singing, man.
Yeah, you start to sing. And with me, what goes hand in hand with the vibrato is the bending. Mm-hmm. So I would sit in my room when I was a kid, man. I would sit there and just like, I wanted to be able to bend. Because most guys, they would bend on the G, B, and E. That's what I always know. So a guy would go, like, he'd bend, he'd add vibrato. For me, I was like, I want to bend on every fret of every string. I don't care. So what I would do is, and this is something, bend, then vibrato. If anyone wants to know my thing, it's I bend it and then I add vibrato. I don't try and do them both at the same time and go. That's not the point. We bend it and then shake it. So I wanted to sit there and I would focus on these bends. I would record myself. I'd play the note and try and get it perfectly, So I go up a scale, I go. You know what I mean? And go through every note. And then I do chromatic. So I go like this. I'd start on like a C and I go. Sounds weird, right? But what you're forcing yourself to do is get like this muscle memory. So I do these Albert King bends, I call them, and you go. Check this. you start to get the growl in there and you can bend the lower strings.
That was the sweet spot right there.
You find the sweet spot. This guitar likes to find those. So yeah, for me, that's really what I focus on. I focus on tone, touch, and feel, man. That's my thing. I think that all guitar players of all styles, whether you go, oh man, this guy's just playing blues stuff or whatever, this is stuff that you can integrate in any style, really, and it'll help you shine, you know. For me, like if I'm gonna put this clon on and I'm gonna. So whether I'm playing from a whisper to a scream, man, I always want to have control of the instrument, bending, vibrato, phrasing. That's the stuff I think about.
I think the faster people are playing, the more that kind of stuff is getting lost as well. So it's good to see someone still repping the vibrato and the kind of old school techniques.
Total old school.
Man, yeah.
I always say, like, there's so many great players. There's so many great guitar players. And I always think of guitar never as a competition, but as like an open book. It's like everyone's bringing something else to the table. I mean, my guitar heroes are everyone from, you know, Zakk Wylde and Dimebag Darrell to, you know, John Lee Hooker. It's like, I love all sorts of guitar, but the things I always focus on really are the feeling and that touch. And if I can offer anything to any guitar player, it's like, make every note count, man. Make them all count, because I'll be sitting in with guitar players and stuff, and they'll just be like, you know, and I'm like, that's cool, but for me, if I'm gonna play fast, man, I'm gonna dig in and I put my whole body into it, you know. Totally. So it's just the way I see things.